the movie or something
yeah.
like that, Kevin. What do you think? No offense.
All set? Okay, thank
I
you.
gotta ask somebody about that.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. Today's Monday, June 19th. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:03 and start by having everyone introduce themselves, beginning on my right.
Kevin Moffett.
Kevin McNabola?
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Jim Leahy.
And Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Public participation, we're good. So, item number 4, ClearGov budget software presentation. Rob Battaglia, discussion and possible vote to purchase software. So I'll turn it over to Rob and John.
Okay. Rob and I have been talking for a couple of years now. We wanted to wait till we got the Munis system in, and then we wanted to pursue this. A lot of other towns, you'll see, cities and towns use it across the state. It's going to make my life and Audrey's life a lot easier when it comes to budget time, because everything you see that you get, we do by hand, entry and all that. And tonight we also, which is good, because we have the assistant police chief and our town engineer, head of public works here, and they have the two biggest budgets in the town. So I asked them to look at it, if they have any questions for Rob, to ask them to. Because it's really, the front end is really what me and the departments, and it's actually gonna make your life easier. You're gonna be able to look at the budget online, on computer. Everything's tied together. You make a change in one department, it flows right through. There's interactive charts and graphs, and I'll turn it over to
Does that
Rob,
mean
because
the end
he's,
of the 27-page beauty we get every month?
not that, but it'll be the end of your budget books that we give you at the beginning of every year, because you'll have it on your computers.
The 10 pounds Kevin has here.
You're right.
I'm a big fan of white paper. Let's see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for allowing me to present today. Like John said, my name is Rob Battaglia. I am the Senior Market Development Executive for ClearGov here in the state of Connecticut. For those who might not be familiar with our company, we are a cloud-based budgeting software company. As John alluded to, we work with a handful of communities, both in the state of Connecticut and across the country. We work with about 20% of the towns in the state of Connecticut, including a few communities nearby to the town of Orange, your neighbor, the town of Woodbridge, town of Branford, town of Guilford, town of North Branford, to name a few. We work with over 1,000 local governments across the United States, and a lot of our clients use Munis as their accounting system as well. We're also the recommended budgeting solution of Connecticut's Capital Region Council of Governments and the Capital Region Purchasing Council. I mentioned this to say that the CRPC recommends ClearGov. We actually have a contract with them. They did an extensive evaluation process of not just our solution, but all the other solutions out on the market. They threw their recommendation to CRPC members for ClearGov, and the town of Orange is a member of CRPC. Our software is designed to complement your existing Munis accounting system. So today we're going to be talking about the budget process, which my understanding is that right now the town's budget process is primarily made up of Excel spreadsheets outside of Munis. The town would continue to use Munis for most of its other operations in the finance office, like general ledger, accounts payable, utility billing. So essentially, you're going to continue to use Munis for whatever you want to use Munis for. What we're talking about is saving time and digitize some of those processes that exist outside of Munis. In terms of our overall suite offerings, our entire suite is called Budget Cycle Management. And like I said, it's designed to complement Munis. It actually has a Munis export built directly into it because we work with Munis so often. We offer a bunch of different modules around each unique aspect of the budget process, but the two that the town is looking at are by far our most common solutions in the state of Connecticut. That's going to be our operational budgeting module. So this would be the solution that the finance team would use to actually build the different stages of the budget. This is the tool where you would have your different Munis line items built into it with your historical data. The finance department would be able to invite in the departments to submit their budget requests at the line item level and include information like notes and attachments and other justifications. This would be the module where you build the different stages of the budget. Board members can even be invited in to look at the progression of the budget take place. And this would be the tool once you're done building the numbers in the budget, you'd be able to export back into Munis. The second module the town is looking at is our digital budget book software, which is by far our most popular solution both in Connecticut and across the country. This solution is designed to do three things. Number one, to John's point earlier, this is going to automate the process to build the town's current budget book, whether it be that large preliminary proposed budget document or the final adopted budget document. This is going to take your data and automate a budget document, automate the fund level content, department content, save a ton of time putting this document together. But more importantly, as its name suggests, it's going to create a digital, interactive, website-based presentation that's mobile-friendly, tablet-friendly, ADA, American Disabilities Act optimized, can be updated dynamically. Rather than having to change a number in one spot and then update the document, it all flows through seamlessly. But you can still print this into a PDF as well. So you get the best of both worlds, the digital interactive presentation, but you can still get the hard copy if you need that. And number three, our software is built around the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. If you're unfamiliar with the GFOA Budget Award, it is the national standard for what a budget document should look like. It's been around for about 40 years. 10% of the towns in Connecticut win the GFOA award. It requires a tremendous amount of work to adhere to the GFOA standard. Our software will build you a budget book around that GFOA standard out of the box. So whether you're trying to become an award-winning community, like your neighbor, the town of Woodbridge, as an example, or you just want to adhere to as many industry best practices as possible, you'll get that inherently with the document you build in our software.
Can you tell me, since you just used the word industry best practices, give me one or two examples of that?
So the GFOA, as an example, part of the budget award criteria, some of that includes things like you need to have a town-wide organizational chart, and it's a best practice to have organizational charts for each department in your budget.
Mm-hmm.
You should be showing things like strategic goals and performance measures. You should have charts and graphs throughout the budget. You should have department narratives. You should have some kind of overall strategic plan. You should have a capital plan. You should have a table of contents. All of those best practices are built into our product, and actually our software actually lists out all the best practices. I'll show that later on, and even gives you a suggestion on what to do to accomplish that.
Since you're in so many towns in Connecticut, one thing that a budget might do is lower it, rather than just administratively be easy to utilize. Making charts and graphs. There could be charts and graphs of very, very inefficient budgets. I'm curious whether your organization now or in the future are planning to, for example, say, we have this budget item, all right, in across the board in all those 20% of the towns in Connecticut. One town seems to be getting along very well, thank you very much, in a very low amount, whether it's amount per person in the town or just an overall for that level of town size. Does your company, is it planning, or do you know if others or competitors are planning to delve into that aspect of budgeting, which, let's face it, comes down to lower taxes, not just the administrative of the budget?
I would say our software, at the end of the day, is designed to do two things. The level of work the finance team puts into producing the budget, this software will save them a significant amount of time and free them up to do other things with their time.
Such as what I've mentioned.
Correct. And our software also provides analytics into that data to help inform that decision-making process. So whether it's something like you find that one specific department or one specific line item is often over budget or under budget, our software makes it very evident to all the different stakeholders, you know, what the data actually is to make decisions around that data.
Over a period of time.
Could be over a period of time, could be in
Kevin, your point earlier this year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think I'm going to show some examples here where that'll be very, very clear. Last thing I'll briefly touch on before we dive into the software is what the setup for this looks like. The town obviously is just wrapping up its budget process for '24. We'll be starting a new fiscal year. So the town's looking to implement this come July 1st. It's about a 2 to 3 month onboarding process. That covers three main pieces. There's the actual data mapping. The finance team would send us a bunch of data out of Munis. We actually work with Munis so often. We have a specific data onboarding document for what reports we need out of Munis. So it's very simple to get us the data we need. We would build the product off of the town of Orange's unique chart of accounts. The team would hop on a couple of review calls and make sure it looks good, but our team will be doing most of that heavy lifting to build out the product. In addition to that, we're quoting you how often it takes a client to go through things like training, not just for the finance department, but also individual departments, the board members here tonight who want to be involved in the budget process with the software, things like that. And of course, customizing the software, particularly around the budget book software. There's a lot of customization you can do in terms of how you want to present it. So on average, it takes a client about 2 to 3 months to go from day one to when they feel like they're completely done with onboarding. And of course, life is included in that timeline. It's on average how long it takes a client with their day-to-day life. I'm going to now dive into the software, and I will save some time at the end for questions. But before I shift gears, does anybody have any other questions on any of the slides I covered before we dive in?
Do you have clients that have been through the, John, what was the training we most recently done,
For Munis,
Munis? Do you have clients that have been trained in Munis and also been trained in this software system?
So almost every single one, I would say probably at least 90% of the 30-plus clients we have in Connecticut use both Munis.
By whatever metric you wish, 2 columns, right? Level of difficulty, amount of time, whatever you want to call it. Comparison of Munis training, ease, time, effort, sweat off the brow, however you want to measure it, versus
this isn't
ClearGov.
even close.
Huh?
Munis, it took us 2 years. to
I'm well
implement.
aware that Munis took you 2 years.
I
He just told me that you've been through it in both Munis and this, so I'm just giving you a comparison.
So I'll give you an example. The town of Rocky Hill and the town of East Hartford come to mind. They signed up for the ClearGov like around the end of November, early December. This past year, they had their proposed budget books published in February and March, respectively. So they went through onboarding, they went through training, they went through using the software, they went through training everyone in the town and published their document in less than 3 months. I'm talking with the town right now that is that is converting to the accounting system you referred to. It's going to take a year just to have their data in the software.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. So,
You talking about my town?
not married.
That's where we're at. Yeah, we're doing a
guys
Munis
have any
conversion now.
questions so far?
Yeah.
This town was in Fairfield County.
Oh, okay.
Kevin?
We're doing Munis.
Excuse me, sir.
To John's point, we're gonna do Munis first, I think. I think it makes that more sense to do it that way, I believe. Get our ERP system in place, get our chart of accounts up to date, and then implement this. I think that's probably the way to go.
Okay. Thank
Because
you.
our training, John's right about the training. The training is just intense. I mean, we have
For Munis.
for Munis, it's
yeah.
like I have people on my staff that do 40 hours of training a week for like 2 weeks in a row. Then they're off a week, and then they go back for 2 more weeks.
That's what we did.
That's what John-
And you drop everything
In the
in that
meantime,
week that you're in training.
They're not doing their job for you
Right.
because they're training.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, thank you.
So we're going to look at 2 modules. We're first going to look at operational budgeting. This will be building the budget, and then we'll end with digital budget book, presenting the budget. So we are right now in the actual ClearGov software. We are a cloud-based solution. So right now you're in ClearGov. Depending on what modules you're getting, that's what you're going to see on the left side of the screen. So we're in the operational budgeting module. I'm going to pull up the budget workspace here right now. Again, this is cloud-based, so you can access the software anywhere, whether you're at town hall, whether you're at home, whether John decides to go to the Bahamas and work on the budget. You can access the software anywhere. We're also very secure on AWS, Amazon Web Services, so you don't have to go out and buy server space for this software. It comes out of the box. It's the same server the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI use. A couple things I want to point out about the software before we actually start changing some of the numbers. Up top's our progress bar. This is a non-linear progress bar. You could be working in multiple sections at the same time. I mentioned how the town is going to send us a bunch of data out of Munis. Depending on how much data you supply us out of Munis, that's what you're going to see here in this trending chart. So right now we're looking at total budget and actuals for the entire general fund for the town. And my demo account, it goes back to 2001, over 20 years of data. So again, depending on how much data you give us, that's what you're going to see there. That's on the expense side. If I wanted to easily see on the revenue side of the budget, I can do that. See budget versus actuals and over budgeted figures. Below that are some metrics. So, for example, the town's going to be using the software for FY25's budget process. So you're going to be able to invite those department heads in to submit their 25 budget requests. But in addition to that, they can also submit their end-of-year estimate for the current year. So the purple row would be FY24 end-of-year projection. The orange-yellow row would be FY25 in progress, comparing it to the 24 budget. You're also able to input your most recent audited fund balance. In this example, I would imagine it would be the 23 fund balance. Based on all this data, the system is able to give you a fund balance projection. So as you're literally changing numbers in the budget process, you can see how it impacts the fund balance. Below that is going to be the actual workspace itself. I'm going to expand this out so it's easier to see. My demo account is built around one specific community's chart of accounts. Whatever the town of Orange's chart of accounts is, that's what you would see here. You can see in my example, it's broken down by function, then broken down by department, then broken down by object, and then down to the actual line item level. Now, you can see there's some columns of data here. So just like your current Excel spreadsheets or Munis reports, you can still show those columns of data, whether they be actuals or budget data. But I also want to point out that that graph above is interactive. So right now this graph is showing all general fund expenditures across the budget. But if I wanted to go into specifically the IT department, and right now we're in an admin view, so this would be looking at it either from John's perspective or the board members' perspectives. We could see specifically the IT's budget going back to my example, 2006, budget versus actuals from a trending perspective. Or I can go all the way down to a line item level if I wanted to. I'll pick on full-time salaries here in this example. So you get the best of both worlds with the software, that kind of column spreadsheet view you're accustomed to, but also those charts and graphs to just bring more analytics to the actual data. What I'm going to do is log in as a department head. Let's assume that finance has already started working on the budget. We're now going to mimic a budget workflow where they would invite a department head in to submit their budget request. So I'm going to go into the contributors tab. Our system has 3 layers of login permission: editor, requester, reviewer. Editor is going to be probably John in the finance department, the folks who are going to administer the budget process. They'll have total control and access over everything. Requesters would be departments themselves. John will be able to invite them into the budget, assign them their line items. They'll be able to submit their budget requests right here into this workspace. They'll all be in the same workspace, so it makes it easy for John and the finance team to actually review the budget and put it together. There's no consolidation of Excel spreadsheets, and it's limiting the chance for error. But even though all the departments are in the same workspace, they only see what they are allowed to see. You know, the IT department only sees IT's line items. Public Works only sees Public Works line items. There's also reviewer functionality. Think of reviewer functionality as read-only access. So a lot of times our clients will invite in, board members, board of finance members, board of selectmen members, whomever, into the system. Oftentimes they'll be assigned a reviewer permission where they can see what the editors see. In this case, you seeing what John sees. You would not be able to edit anything accidentally, but what you could do is comment at the line item level, and I'll show you an example of how you can do that. So you could theoretically leave notes and ask questions of the finance department or of any department about a specific line item even before your board meetings. When a department is invited into the system, they're assigned their line items, they're assigned a deadline for them to get their budget request in by, so whether that be the end of December, end of January, whatever makes sense there. And also you can set an email reminder frequency that the software will send that department an email reminder to get their budget request in by that deadline at a certain interval, whether that be 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, or none. So I always like to joke that this is a way for the software to kind of do the harassment on finance's behalf with the departments. We're going to now log into the department view. Now the departments will see pretty much what the finance team sees, except it's obviously just their portion of the budget. In my example, I am logged in as the IT director to look at the IT department's budget. I can see here those metrics around just my budget. If I scroll down here, you can see, and I will roll this up to the object level so you can clearly see that this is just the IT department's budget, right? They've been assigned just this budget. They can only see that budget. Now, before I start changing some of the numbers, I'm going to show you some of the tools available to both finance and these departments when they're building the budget. The first one I want to show you is finance will be able to lock certain line items or objects from departments. In this example, talking with John, it sounds like the town of Orange operates like most towns where, although they allow the departments to submit budget requests for most line items on the personnel side, those line items are often calculated in a separate process. So in this example, you can see the IT department's personnel budget has gone up about 3.5%. So finance has calculated that, maybe with HR, and they have locked those line items so that the department can't change those numbers. They're part of that department's budget. However, this department still has the ability to maybe ask a question or leave a comment. In this case, as the department head, I will say this looks great, and this will notify the finance department that I have made that comment. I'm going to change some of the line items in this object here, and I will show you some of these tools available to you. So training and education, let's say I want to increase that line item to $500. And I want to input some other values here, whether it be a raw value or a percent change. Very easy to use from a department's perspective. We built this software to be not just easy to use for the average person, but Scott, the 16-year-old intern, or Jane, the 80-year-old bookkeeper. I've changed some numbers here, and you can see that they've changed because these E icons now appear on the right-hand side. It makes it very clear to me and anyone else that the line items have been edited. You also notice that the parent categories have updated both by the e-icons and the percent changes. Now, as the department, I've entered some budget requests into here. Perhaps based on guidance that the finance department gives me, or just some of these tools available to me in ClearGov now, I want to provide some additional information. My training and education budget is increasing quite significantly, so maybe I want to explain to the finance department why it's going up so much. I have the ability to leave a comment here for both finance, for the board members to explain why this is happening. And as the IT department, I want to mention that I'm looking to attend the annual IT seminar. Not only can I leave a note there, I can put an attachment at the line item level. Think of that as any kind of invoice, a rendering, a proposal, an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, all of that can be placed right there at any individual line item.
That would be like using Paul Mangillo as an example. He gives us that list of all the software that he's purchasing for that line item. He would put it there. He would attach it there. And I think we talked about he could do it in Excel, attach it in Excel, and then the next year just update it for whatever the.
It'll be the same
new-
thing with the police budget. The narrative they give us is.
Right.
is-
Those pages
Very
and
big.
pages of, go right here, and then the following year, it'll roll over and they'll be able to make their edits to it without having to retype it all.
Yeah, I'm going to show that example here right now. So the other tool available to you is what we call subline item details. So a lot of times our clients will want to not just leave a note or attach an Excel spreadsheet, but maybe create rows in the budget to explain that more granularly. A lot of times our clients will provide this detail behind some of the salary line items, adding like position level detail. I'm going to actually do it in this example we were talking about, training education. We mentioned we want to go to the IT seminar, but why is it $500 specifically? Well, I want to create a subline item detail to explain it. So training education is the line item. I'm now going to go below the line item to itemize it, and I'm going to say that for the annual IT seminar, the reason it's $500 is we're going to budget for 2 people to go at $250 each. We could also use this to also help us create budget requests. So I'm going to go to this line item here at the bottom, operating supplies, which is currently $0. Let's say this department has an idea of what they want to spend money on, but might not know exactly how much to ask for overall. So I'm going to use the software to figure it out for me. So I know in the IT department we need to buy, in this example, paper for the IT department. We want to buy 6 units at $12.50. We also want to buy pens for the IT department. In this case, I want to buy 3 units at $2.65.
Please don't show this, Dot Williams. All right. We'll have a 50-page, only kidding. Hey, show me how the system handles the reduction in any line item. Just pick one.
Okay, so this one I want to lower the amount. I want
That's
to
correct.
lower it by 2%.
No, put in the number, and
Sure.
then I want to see what
So instead of
happens.
4626, we're going to
Yes.
lower it to 4300.
Okay. Thank you.
By 7%.
Now, I noticed that comes up with 2 decimal points rather than the other one, which seemed to only come up with 1. Can you educate me on that?
That was the number that it went to. There's rounding capability if you want to round your final reports to the
So you can have it be 2 decimal points?
correct.
Yeah, thank you.
There's rounding
That's all.
functionality.
Okay,
So the department would.
okay.
Was there a question?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the department, as you can see, would submit their budget, right? No different than what they're doing now. This is obviously going to be a lot easier, less error prone. You're not, one broken formula away from an error. And once they input their budget request and any other narrative, they would then submit the request to finance. All they got to do is click the submit button. When they do that, a message prompts up and it says, "Are you sure you want to send in your budget request?" So it's kind of like them being a referee to make sure you know what you're doing. Once the department submits their budget request, they will not be able to change it unless finance allows them to. They open it back up or start a new round. So yes, I'm sure, double confirming I want to submit this final budget request, and that's it. Then the request will flow back to finance. Finance on their end will have a main dashboard that lists out all the different departments, all the different users that have been invited into the budget to submit budget requests. There'll be a list of everyone. In real world, you'll see a list of 10, 12, 15 people who have been invited. If they have a red X next to their name, then the request has not been received in real time. You can see my name has a green check mark. I'm a department head in this example, so the request has been received. Now you could imagine the department requests start to flow in. and we're now going to be working on that next stage of the budget. So this is now finance working with other stakeholders to build that budget. You can start to see the budget being built here. We got our previous years of data. Here's our end of year projection column. Here's maybe the baseline stage. That might be last year's budget plus things like increased personnel costs. Here we have that department requested column. Now we're working on the next stage of the budget. And there'll be 3 actions to take when reviewing a budget request. So you can see here, I can take 3 actions. I can either, maybe this is John doing this, whether he's doing it by himself or with the board members. I can either approve this budget request tentatively before we close the round. That would be a green thumbs up. I have the ability to deny the request. So the department has asked for X percent or X amount increase. We say no, then it will revert back to last year's budgeted amount. Or we can edit it. They've asked for a 4.5% increase. I'm going to give them a 2% increase. We also have the ability to do this at the subline level.
And that's mostly what we do now. They submit their budget back.
Yeah.
Right.
And then myself and Jimmy will review it, make some changes.
Before
and
we
it
even
comes-
see it.
Before you even see it.
Yeah.
Then you see it, and we'll probably do the same thing. We'll go through it, edit it,
Right.
and make the changes.
Okay.
You could also do this at the subline level, I'll point out, so you can really get granular with your budget review. And essentially, there's no limit to how many of these stages you can build in the budget. We obviously have a lot of clients in states like Connecticut, Massachusetts, where these states often have larger stages, so there's no limit. A few more things I want to point out about the software that are very huge value adds. Number one, there's an audit trail that's logging everything. Who's doing what they did, what they changed, how they changed it. Total transparency, control, and oversight over the budget process. There was an attachments library in the system, so we talked about the value of attaching different documents in the system. Rather than scouring the budget to find that document, there'll be a centralized repository of those documents. You still have the ability to download reports out of the system. So we have a bunch of canned reports that finance can download out, kind of like that Munis report you held up earlier. You can still download a very similar report in our system. And of course, you can export the data from ClearGov back into Munis. There's a Munis-friendly export built into the product. The last thing I'll point out about this module before we wrap up with the presentation side of it is we talked about how in a singular budget year, right, for FY25's budget process, you'll be able to collect your budget requests for 25, collect your end-of-year estimates for 24. You also have the ability to do up to 10 years of forecasted planning within that same budget workspace. So in this example, you can see here, I'm working on my budget, the different stages of the budget. In my example, it's for FY22. But I also have here some columns for 3 future years, 23, 24, 25. So you can maintain a multi-year financial plan, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, while you build your annual budget. As an example, we talked about IT subscriptions. Imagine you invite the IT department into here. For next year's budget, they're able to tell you that for the subscription line item, it's going to be a request of $200,000 for 25. We're ending the year at that line item at 185. But for the year after that, it's going to go from 200 to 210. It's actually going to increase even more the next year in FY27 because that's when the 3% goes to a 7%. So that's the level of detail you can get in this budget, just building it normally in our software. I'm going to now move to the presentation side and happy to answer any kind of final questions there. You can imagine we've built the budget in ClearGov, and of course we can export the raw data into Munis, but now we need to create our budget document, whether it be the proposed document or the final adopted document. Using the digital budget book software, we're going to be able to take the data we just built and automate a document for us to save us time putting this together, present it in a digital interactive format, and of course have it built around those GFOA standards. And just so happens that I think one of the best examples in both Connecticut and the country happens to be your neighbor, and that's the town of Woodbridge. They've been using our software for the last few years here. This is actually in terms of apples to apples, their 24 proposed budget, their preliminary budget. Number one, you can just see compared to a static PDF document. This is a digital, interactive, website-based presentation. From a storytelling perspective, our system gives you a bunch of pages to make that document look as beautiful as it should be for the most important story you're going to tell all year. Again, there will be a lot of content in the system for you to fill out if you want to per GFOA guidelines. An example is a budget timeline page. But our software not only allows you to put that content in and suggest that content, but reinvent the way you do it, right? Even something as nice as a beautiful timeline graphic like this makes it so much cleaner for someone to look at the data. A GFOA best practice is including demographics information. That's one of those things our software can actually automate for you. We track demographic data in our system for every community across the United States. We have an API with the Census Bureau. This demographics page, which checks the box on the GFOA best practice, is automated by our software. So in their budget book, they have this demographics page which updates each year per our API. There's their full-time population, their day type population, age group distribution. If you're curious what this page looks like for the town of Orange, I can actually show you. So imagine having this page in your budget book each year. Here's your full-time population. The town has seen a lot of population growth over the last couple decades. Your daytime population is significantly higher than your full-time population. That no doubt has an impact on the town's budget. So including that context in your budget provides context behind the budget decisions this board's making.
What's a daytime population?
How many people are in the town during the day versus who live here full-time? So you have more people in the town during the day than who actually live here. So you must
How
have,
do you know that I've left the town, me?
you'd have to ask the American Community Survey. That's the Census Bureau. They're the one who tracks that data. You also must have some decent businesses in town also.
No, I understand people coming into the town, but
Mm-hmm.
those people coming into our town have to have left their town.
They must do, the Census Bureau and the American Community Survey, they, as the name
Okay,
suggests,
so
they do a
this is-
survey.
So you grab someone else's data to,
We grab the federal census
Yeah.
data, yeah.
roger that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Age group distribution, household information.
Oh, go back to that, please. Okay, that looks like us.
Yeah.
Here's your household information, percentage of households, and these are benchmark statistics comparing you against the state average. Economic data like household income distribution, benchmark statistics on the right, home value distributions, home ownership versus rentership. So this data is from the Census Bureau. It's public information, including in the budget. That's a Government Finance Officers Association best
Census
practice.
Bureau, they do that at once every,
They do the full census every 10 years, but they actually do updates each year through the
Oh, do
American
they?
Community Survey, yeah.
oh, okay, thank you.
That's a kind of interesting number, Jim. We're gonna need that next year with reevaluation.
The home?
Right, it won't be the thing we've been
Home
using for,
values.
for 8
Home
years or
values.
something like that, yeah.
But of
We
course,
might need it. We might not be here.
Never know, me either.
But of course, you know, at the end of the day, the financial side of the budget is going to be the most important. So this is how Woodbridge presents its budget. Here's their general fund page. Everything I'm going to show you on this page is automated by the software out of the box on day one, aside from this tiny little bit of text that was added by the client. And our software will even give you a suggestion of what text to put there. But you can see from a trending perspective now on the public-facing document, whether this is the budget book you're presenting for the Board of Finance to review or for the members of the public. Here we can see Woodbridge's general fund presentation over the last X amount of years, going back 10 years. From an interactive perspective, you can't beat this compared to a PDF. It just gives you so much more flexibility to look at the data. All the charts and graphs are automatically generated by the software. Here we're looking at the revenues by source for Woodbridge. This is their chart of accounts. Whatever the town's chart of accounts is, that'll be represented here. Unlike Excel or a PDF where, number one, the finance department would have to build these charts and graphs manually. That requires time. Number two, they'll be two-dimensional. Number three, John has to make a decision whether he wants to show a pie chart or a bar chart on that specific page in your budget book. Our system will automate them, so no work required. Number two, obviously they're
Do we
interactive.
have options?
You have options.
Thank you.
They're interactive, and to those options, you can show them in a bunch of different ways that are canned. So here, you get to show the data from a couple different data dimensions. You don't have to make a binary decision on what this board is presented or the public's presented. They get to pick and choose what you want to see. Here's that same data. Here's the revenues by source over the last X amount of years. I can come in here and manipulate this data from a couple different angles, but you still get your spreadsheet level details like you're accustomed to. So you're getting the best of both worlds. The table spreadsheet level details, now with interactive charts and graphs. Here's their budget broken down by function on the general fund, including the school. So obviously this is the town's budget book, but you're able to show that school's budget like you guys do currently, like most folks do in Connecticut. Let's say one of you board members has a question for John. What's our public safety spending over the last 10 years? Rather than John having to run a report to show that data, maybe that's already in your budget book, and now a board member just has to click and choose on the chart and graph to see the data presented right there. So instead of having to run reports and it takes days to get that information, it's now available to you with a couple clicks of the button, and of course the spreadsheet to accompany that. Or how about let's look at the same kind of dynamic from a different perspective. Let's say someone wants to compare salaries versus benefit costs over the last 10 years. Again, that type of data is available to you with a couple clicks of the buttons. You can even show your fund balance content in the system as well with interactive charts and graphs. A couple more examples I'll show briefly. Here's an example of a revenue page. Woodbridge does a great job with this funding sources page, all their different revenue sources. I love this page specifically, department charges. I think this actually alludes to the conversation earlier by the board. Here, they're showing the number compared to last year. They have some narrative here, but you can see that those numbers spiked way back in the day, and that's because they had a golf course back then, which they don't have anymore. So being able to show that level of data provides context behind the budget decisions that are being made. Even you can see the over budgeted figures are clear and concise. They've added some really beautiful narrative behind the revenues by department. But of course, you still get not only the charts and graphs to show that level of detail, but of course the line item detail as well. Here's an example of one of their department pages. This is the library. Not only can departments get invited to ClearGov to submit their budget requests for each line item, include the narrative and descriptions, but they can also be invited to their page in the budget book to provide things like missions, descriptions, goals, accomplishments, performance measures, org charts, right there on that page. So the department can have a role making sure that their page, that the content is formatted the way they want it to look. Of course, the software's gonna have spell check, grammar check, an ADA optimization tool. But here we're looking at Woodbridge's library department page. It has who the point of contact is, their title, a description of that department, and an interactive website-based budget in 2023. You shouldn't be surprised. They even have TikTok and Instagram linked to it. Here they have their highlights for the current year. They have the budget numbers compared to last year, the trending data for that department's budget. Here's the budget broken down by object with interactive charts and graphs, and of course their line item level details. But what I love about this specific department example, which I think is a best practice, is they obviously have objectives for the current year, but they're also showing goals. And it's one thing to show goals and performance measures using text or tables, but it's another thing to use interactive charts and graphs. I have no doubt that, for argument's sake, if the highway department asked for a 5% increase to pave an extra 50 roads in the next budget year, this board the next year would want to know, did you meet your goal? Did you exceed your goal? Did you not meet your goal, and why is that? To
We
show
would
that.
sign up for 50 more roads for 5% increase in budget, by the way. Just want to let you know.
Being able to provide that context in the budget using charts and graphs at the end of the day is really what the budget is all about. The last thing I'll point out, just like Woodbridge, Woodbridge has this document linked to their website, so you're able to have this linked to your website. You click on it, it'll pull up the interactive document, so it's no different than putting this on your town's website like you do the current document. But you may notice there's a big blue print button here. Anybody who's looking at the budget book, whether it be a board member, stakeholder internally, or member of the public, can print this out. You can print the entire book, or you can print pieces of the book if you want to print out just one specific page. And it will also give you a PDF that looks something like this. So this is the PDF version of Woodbridge's budget book. It will automate the table of contents for you, and it's a dynamically linked table of contents as well.
So John creates that.
Both the online and the PDF, yeah.
Yeah. And John, the editor, would have editing capability even over the narrative of the departments,
Correct.
If we put that in.
if you put that in.
We're not gonna get all the way there in 1 year.
No, roger that. I just wanted to know who controls.
Yeah, no, it's
And I
gotta
want it to
be,
be-
it's gotta be me.
Yeah.
Oh, the role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gotta
So
be.
the security permissions as well, that John would control.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So if we have a department head within IT that left and a new department head comes in, John could update the new department head, correct?
Correct.
All right. They don't have to call tech support
No,
from ClearGov to update that.
not at all.
Yeah, okay, cool. Looks good. Yeah, I've heard very good things about this, document, from actually the Woodbridge, finance director, Anthony, who I know very well. He raves about it, so.
Do you guys have any questions from a department head standpoint?
Two questions. The first one, is there a limit or what's the standard for departments on how many users can have access and/or edit that or auto that? Like say, for the police department, right? Is it just one person that has basically, is there an admin secretary that who puts together our document now based on what we tell her? Or do we all have the ability to go in and add
Do a piece of it, I
piece by
guess.
piece instead of just, one person doing it?
Short answer is no limit. There's definitely best practices. Sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen isn't a good thing. I will say on the budget software, you do also have the ability to farm some of that out. So as an example, let's say the police department is responsible for X amount of line items, but there might be a couple line items that are responsible by an individual who manages animal control. You could farm those line items below a department to a different division or division to
I
department.
was gonna ask you that because Public Works, a couple of their department budgets, there are some line items that I take care of and some that Bob takes care of, so we could do that.
Yeah.
It's the same for us, some of
Yeah.
our numbers come from, like utilities and all that actually come from town hall, you guys, it's still from.
So really what we're asking is, can John, who assigns the requesters to individual departments, which is for the sake of argument, say there are 10 departments, they're not, but let's just say there are, he can assign 5 people. Or the department can be smart and say, we will funnel everything through these 2 people who will do the inputting into this. For one thing, it may take longer for other people to be trained, another thing, it may be more efficient to do. Some things the old-fashioned way with the new-fashioned software type of thing.
Yeah, this is actually part of our 2.0 version of the software which the town will have available. It's called a co-requester model. So essentially, think of your requesters across departments. So you can do all those examples you've all mentioned. You can even do an example where you mentioned finance might do line items, but there could be an example where IT is responsible for one line item across every department. IT get to get assigned those line items. So it's being able to look at the budget assignment not in a binary box perspective, but more like across dimensions, across the budget, so short answer is no limit.
Probably what will happen, Jim, where the police department will probably give it to 1 or 2 people over there, probably their administrative assistant, and they'll funnel that information to her and she'll put it in. I'm sure Bob or Max aren't gonna do the typing of those descriptions. It will be Kathy over there, and once that's all gotten in the first year, it's gonna make it a lot easier the second year, the third year, because it's just updated.
So that leads us to my second question. Obviously, the historical data, there's a lot of importance, it can be very beneficial. As part of the onboarding, how far back, is it all based on data that the town's gonna provide you? Or how far back do we go, or we're only gonna be going forward?
We're probably only gonna be able to go back 3 years, because that's all we have in Munis. So, but then we'll build from it. After the first year, it'll be 4 years and 5 years, and then we
Also,
can,
we'll start with
who's
the
ever in my
3-year benchmark.
position could keep
But at least
it
we'll have
for-
3 years.
Right,
That's
right.
That's good.
We got 3 and Jimmy's got the previous 15, so we're good. Right?
Ready to
Right,
rock
Jim?
and roll.
That's it.
I am available for hire.
Anybody else have any questions?
And we have not purchased this.
No, that's what I hope.
That's
do
what we're gonna
tonight.
talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I coulda did it without the board, but I thought it'd be a good idea to bring it in to you folks to see it first. I mean, my goal now upstairs is to get this department ready for whoever takes my spot in the future, and this is something we need. We've been doing with the Excel and individual sheets for quite a long time now, and we know in the past, we've had some mistakes there and all, and this will help avoid that and save a lot of time, I think, in the future, between myself and Audrey and the departments.
Makes sense.
No, especially going forward for, like you said, when we're not here.
Right, right.
The ClearGov budget information is all in the cloud then instead of on our servers, the Excel spreadsheets are.
Correct. And I think it'll help our residents in the future too. As the population gets younger and more computer literate, they'll be able to go on the website and.
Our senior member, he knows more about computers than I will. So
Right.
Be careful about that. The seniors,
Right.
very good.
Oh, Kevin, I don't know if I'm a senior member or not.
No, I don't think you are.
Oh, okay. That's-
We'll discuss it offline at 6:00.
All right.
Rob, you did a good job in the presentation. I want to thank you very much for that. That was very strong.
Well, thank you so much, and appreciate the opportunity. to
How
present
long has
today.
Brantford had it, or they just sat it for?
They just went through their first budget cycle,
Oh, okay.
so they were you guys last year, and
Does
they,
Guilford have it?
yeah, this was their, they were with us a while using one of our other modules, but this was their second budget cycle using the budget software. This was Woodbridge's third budget cycle. We've been around for about 8 years as a company. We're actually based in Maynard, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes west of Boston. We've been mostly doing our work in Connecticut the last 3 or 4 years now.
So you work with Jim Finch then?
Of course.
Yeah, Jim, yeah. That's good.
And I've talked to the finance director in Guilford, and she's very pleased with it.
By any chance, Dan Fulton, do you know Dan? Lives in Maynard.
I personally live in New York City, so
Oh, okay.
but
Headquarters is in Maynard.
don't hate me because I'm a Yankees fan, but
I am too, but we won't talk about that right now.
Come on, that's a violation.
Trying not to bring it
Come
up.
on.
But you do have a bunch of Ranger fans here, so.
Good. I don't have any questions. Jeff?
Okay, we all set with Rob? He can
think so.
hit the road back to New York?
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Appreciate
Thank
the
you for coming.
opportunity.
thanks.
Jim will
Okay,
hand
oh,
you
we have to
over
do
the-
roll that thing over here. See
All right, so John, do we need to do anything for you?
Yes.
Okay,
Can we just take a 5-minute recess?
of course.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to take a 5-minute recess?
So moved.
Motion, oh, second.
Second, all in favor?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And we're back.
Okay, welcome back. It is now 7:54, and we're still on item 4. John?
All right, so you saw his presentation, and I'd just like the authority to go out and purchase it.
Can you
The
tell me what it
software.
costs, both
Yeah,
annual and
the-
recurring?
The current $2,880 plus 16,360. First year is 19,240, and then
Okay.
there's a 3% increase a year.
Are
That's-
there
that's
any
the
other
annual
costs
license,
associated with this of any magnitude you can see?
No,
There's no other IT, no security?
no.
We've got, is our IT, our servers gathering up the information
Yeah.
on a nightly
We're gonna,
basis?
we're
type
gonna
of
be
thing?
able, like he said, we're gonna be able to download the information from Munis into his system.
Right.
And he's already given me the instructions on how to do it, and it's pretty clear cut and forward to do, so I think we're good.
Is there any
first-
way to start identifying, if not also quantifying? We're talking about, boy, this would make our job easier. Well, if I'm not doing that job and I'm still here so many hours a week, what are we gonna be able to do with that time?
That time will be used on stuff that we're having to do in our free time and Saturdays and Sundays and days off when we come in, when we're supposed to be off. It's gonna enable us not to have to probably hire another person.
Work smarter. Well, that pays for itself right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
it's gonna save time in the departments
I don't doubt it.
after the first year, no question in my mind. Plus, it's gonna avoid, which luckily in my term here, we've only had one small mistake with the pie chart, but it's gonna avoid some possible mistakes down the road. We've been lucky with what we're doing with the Excel sheets over the years. I mean, that
We've
worries
been good. me. We haven't been lucky.
Well, because we
Well, we put
spend
a
a
lot of work
lot
into
of
it.
time
Well, I know.
upstairs checking and double checking.
Yep.
and-
Formulas and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, all those columns are hand entered. You know, the back 2 years and the
Oh, yeah.
budget
No,
years
we've-
and
we've-
everything,
We've all
so.
spotted different things that have
Yeah,
popped up.
Kevin and I, about
Yeah.
8 years ago.
I mean, we're not
spotted
gonna, we're certainly not gonna be as fancy as what he showed you for Woodbridge, but it's a goal to work towards.
Yeah, over time.
you
The
know.
first year, you're not gonna.
Yeah. I mean, I could see some good things on there that I'd like to put in. I mean, I'd like that demographic stuff that he showed. I thought that's pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and someday we'll put in what some of the departments do. I don't see doing that the first year, because maybe we'll do a couple of departments a year at a time, because that's gotta be looked at, what they say and
Oh, yeah.
everything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this would go into 2024's budget year, correct?
Will be the one we do next.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
But we
Yeah.
even start that in September.
Right.
I start doing the Excel sheets in September, and Audrey starts looking at them.
Yep.
And our goal is usually to have them out to departments around by the middle of October, and then we usually give them till the week before Christmas to get them back to me. And then I need 2 to 3 weeks to get them ready to show it to Jim, and then for you guys for the first meeting in February.
So with this, you could be sitting anywhere there's a computer, link into the cloud and
Mm-hmm.
review it, adjust it.
And same thing with you guys from your
Right.
home or office. You'll be able to get in, look at things that don't look right, make questions, and either send them to me or we go back over them as a group.
Right.
One of the things, I agree with everything that we've said about the efficiencies of the administrative part of it, John, and it's massive. One of the things I wish I knew that some of the things we do on a macro level of, you know, I'll call it the general category of what ifs. what if we did this, what would that mean to fund balance, what would that mean to the ratios? And we've done a nice job over the years in these meetings, right now, right, doing that type of thing. I hope we don't lose that
No,
in
you
some
won't.
capacity.
As you saw, we can make changes in here
Yep.
to any department and it flows right through. It's gonna make our job even easier.
No, I'm not thinking about specifically departments, I'm thinking about the more macro types of things that I mentioned. So
I don't
you
see
don't
us
see that as a
losing
problem.
anything, no.
And it doesn't necessarily say we can't do offline, that kind of stuff
Right,
anyway.
like he said, you
Right.
could download almost anything in here into an Excel sheet too.
Into
so.
Excel, I heard him say PDF, I didn't hear.
He told me in another meeting
Both.
Excel,
You can do
yeah.
both.
Yeah, if you could PDF now, you can
Yeah,
extrapolate
you
it.
can
to
usually
it,
change
switch it back.
PDFs into Excel.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's, I don't know if maybe you need a certain type of PDF read,
I know
right?
Some of
No,
them,
I don't know.
Anyway, we'll deal with it.
We'll deal with that.
so you need basically $20,000.
Yeah, I'll find it in the budget. I just need a vote for you guys to authorize me to purchase it.
Yeah,
find
I'll,
I'll make a motion to.
you want,
yeah.
Kevin? Go ahead.
Motion by Kevin, second by Jim.
My cohort, I won't want to say anything more. Yeah, whatever,
And
yeah.
then we'll build this cost into the budget
Yep.
in
This year's
In the
budget.
future years.
future
Yeah.
years.
Future,
Yeah.
we're buying it now in the current year?
Yeah, this is the current year, but when we do our new budget.
Correct.
We'll put it in there.
Or- Roger that.
Probably go in Paul's budget. I like Paul's budget better.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I'd like to have a motion to move items 7, 8, and 9 up to number 5. And
I'll
then they'll
make that motion.
become 5, 6, and 7.
I'll second it.
Second, Kevin second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. so
It
now-
actually worked out good tonight to have the two of them here.
Yep.
To actually see
Now,
that.
now you're talking, and I've tried to move them up so that they could get out of here, and you're wasting more time.
Neither of them have anything to do,
Come on up.
so they can.
So, item number
Come on
7,
up.
funding
Grab chairs,
request
sit
for a
there,
new
whatever you gotta
communication
do.
antenna at the police station.
Okay.
Chief Martins.
Yes, sir. So, as you guys know, as part of the short-term capital, they funded the cell tower replacement for the PD, and that was a large ticket item. At the time, Chief Gagnon was hoping to fund. So at the time, obviously, he had separated these two purchases, but it was actually looking to do it as one particular project. And the microwave dish is basically the communication link for our radio system. It's the backbone of everything we do. From the PD, will be one on the PD tower and one up here at High Plains at the cell tower. It's a point-to-point system, so they communicate it back and forth. So the current dish we have is about to turn 9 years old. They stopped supporting those dishes at 7 years, the manufacturer. At 10 years, it becomes almost mandatory to replace. We're just about at 9 years old. It's going to need to be replaced. The impetus behind doing it at the same time is instead of actually having a half a day or more of downtime when they actually install the cell tower and have to take the old, which at this point, which is going to be an outdated antenna, off of the current tower, move it onto the new tower, and to have us be offline on radio backup. Not to mention the cost associated with the manpower and the climbers to go up on the tower, remove it, reinstall it. If we can just get the funding to purchase it now, and there's your price there is at $35,600. All the work can be done at one time, and literally when we look to switch over, it's the flip of a switch, and now we're on the new tower, new antenna, and we have no downtime at all on the PD. The savings would have been a little bit higher, but, you know, according to Bob Mansfield from Utility Communications, again, because of inflation, where the industry standard used to be maybe one increase a year, they're looking at equipment increases like every 6 months. You know, what exactly that price will be next year, don't know. He said you might be looking at 5% or more of an increase on top of that, if you wait another year. But more importantly, just based on the age of that antenna and the costs down the road savings, it makes all the sense to do it now, if we can find that money.
Where's it coming from, John?
It would have to come from capital. This is another item like last year when we bought that laser in the software,
Yes.
where we decoupled them where they should have been coupled together.
Right.
This should have been really coupled together with the antenna.
Yeah.
And I would recommend we take $36,000 out of capital and do it.
Yep.
Let's get it done.
So there's nothing, not oftentimes, I recall some time in the past when we have had items, and particularly in this department, the police department, Bob, or you perhaps yourself, found other areas within that department to cover costs. This is not all that different from a car, for example, in terms of cost.
Usually in the police department, we have labor balances in labor. This year, we don't have that because we had new union contract and we had retros that we had to pay.
And we still did move some cars there too, right?
And we bought the cars out of the special duty
Right.
account this year. So I wouldn't recommend doing that this year.
'Cause it's
There
not
isn't-
there.
It's not really there. If we look at our things later, a lot of our salary accounts are negative because of the retros and the salary increases. But at the end of the year, I'm gonna have to make adjustments
Right.
out of that account in the
Okay.
back to balance them all off.
Okay.
Yeah, plus this, I mean, obviously, this is at end of life, so it's a smart move to do it now.
And as we said, they're gonna need a new roof next year. It's better off to do it now, and we'll just rip the roof off the antenna when it's
Yeah,
time to go.
We're looking to
and
put
do
less penetration into the roof, no more guidelines tying it down. That was the whole impetus behind this, and what became more evident is, the other year, we had a little blip where somebody was climbing the tower, stepped on one of our wires, and took us offline. The new dishes are redundant, they have 2 of everything on it, so if that was to occur, it just automatically switches over to the second phase. They have 2 RFs, 2 modems, 2 power supplies, it's basically foolproof.
It's
How
everything.
familiar are you personally with this detail spreadsheet that we're looking at the back of this?
How familiar am I with
Yeah.
it? I know a few of the things, I'm not intimately familiar. This is obviously an itemized list from Utility Communications,
Right.
who does the work for the town and breaks it down, but that's where, as you can see, like for the first 2 line items, there's part of the redundancy, there's, it lists 2.
Well, there's 2 of each of these. There's
Yes.
a quantity of 2 for the first item, quantity of 2 for the second item that look the
Correct.
same, but then have, it looks like the old tubes on my father's TV when I
Yeah.
grew up,
But remember, there's also 2 dishes, right?
Yeah.
There's 2. There's one
Okay.
one that's on the PD tower, and the other one is at the cell tower here at High Plains.
Yeah. Do you have any, one of the notes underneath caused me to say, why don't I ask a question about this? Engineering services required by the tower owner or special inspections are not included in this quote. It sounds like something that could go bump into the night. Do you have any idea what that is?
I do not specific, the engineer, I know the whole part of the cost of the tower included engineering costs for installation and for, anchoring and such as that.
Yeah, it looks like it's 8 hours of whatever, system staging and configuration,
That
and
might-
22 hours of
That might
integration.
be that other consultant you might need, the guy you use now, that Paul brings in and Josh brings in.
Oh, we mean it from like Accucom and all that?
No, the other company they use. He's the engineer that works on your servers and stuff.
Oh, to a flagship.
Yeah, because then they have to work on the dispatch system too, when you run in the new dispatch system.
They do, but they work in conjunction with Utility Communications to
Probably,
get,
if we
to get the
need,
communication links.
if they need
in
an
order.
engineer to do that, and it's the engineer that Paul oversees,
Yes.
they'll do it in their budget.
And this wasn't an item, it seems to be a magnitude that we
It's-
usually bid, but this didn't come under that aegis.
And they're a
State
state
contract.
contractor,
Roger that.
and they're used for all telecommunications in the town,
They are.
even at the schools.
Right.
Okay, so what are you looking for?
I would motion 36,000.
36,000
Out of
capital.
out of capital.
You
All
want to
right.
possibly go with just a tad, I mean, we're at 35 now, by the time we order it, what if it goes just a tad over 36? You want to say not to exceed 40?
Yeah.
I mean, let's,
That's up to you guys.
We're renegotiating here.
hey, I just don't want to come back before the board.
How old's the quote? The quote's like a month old or 2 months old?
That's from
April
April.
28th.
April?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd be comfortable.
But tell them when we pushed back and told them that we know that they could.
There you go.
Well, listen, not to exceed 38, how about that?
Yeah, motion not to exceed
That's my
38.
motion, not to exceed 38,000 coming
take
out of
that.
cash.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second.
Good.
Any further discussion?
Meet halfway.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous? Great.
All right.
Thank you, chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Business with you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
All right.
He does that so well, Bob's gonna send them all the time.
All right. Okay,
Which one are we doing first? Bob?
it's
The
number,
Country Bowl?
the old 8, funding request, approved funds to complete flood control project, Old Country Road.
Okay.
Memo from Bob Britton.
There we are, Bob.
You guys are familiar with these culvert projects that have been talked about. We
Yeah.
did some engineering for them previously.
Yep. And we had the folks there and they brought video,
Oh, yeah,
pictures and
worth
they,
1,000 words, those pictures, so.
and some of us have been out to the site extensively to see it, so
Okay.
we're pretty familiar.
So the plan was the Old Country Road in Coachman's would be the first project. The design was completed, it went out to bid. You have the bids, low bid was just under $1 million. Board of Selectmen voted to award the contract to the low bidder and recommended that you fund the project. And the thought is to use the ARPA funds. And they.
Actually, that's a little wrong there. We want to use American Rescue Funds.
Are these different from ARPA?
Yes.
Okay, I thought they were the same. The federal funds for COVID or whatever,
American Rescue.
and then contingency of 10%. So the
Yep.
total request, $1,095,094. Or you can round it up. I mean, obviously, the 94 is.
Could I ask a question, John? American Rescue Funds, not that it affects this line item, but how much money did we get for the American Rescue Funds?
We roughly got a little over 4 million,
4 million.
and we spent about 2 million roughly. The
And we
Board of
have a-
Selectmen.
We have a list of that somewhere on it.
Yeah. You've approved every one of them, the cost. Board of Selectmen took this item up last Wednesday night. They voted to fund it, and they recommended that we use American Rescue Funds for it.
Okay.
So Bob, any concerns at all on the bids? I mean, it looks like Earthworks excavating came in, pretty significantly lower than the rest of the field of bids that came in.
There were three.
I
in-
put them up there actually,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
people could see them.
There were,
Somewhat close.
there were three that were close to $1 million. I think
Yeah.
the engineer's estimate was about,
Dayton Construction, Guerra Construction,
Guerra,
pretty close.
yep.
3 million, 3.5 million.
sometimes you get ones that are just,
They're
Out there.
making a bid because they don't need it, and they're throwing it out, and if you accept
Right,
it,
if you
'cause
take it,
you
you
see
take
a
it,
lot of that,
yeah.
there's
Yeah?
a lot of that going on, oh, yeah.
There's a lot of that going on because
Because they really
think-
don't want it,
Yeah.
but if you're gonna pay them back, they're gonna take it.
Yeah, they can make $1 million profit, why not, right?
They want to
Or
stay on
two.
the bid list too.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, if they were all $3.5 million and one guy was $1 million, then you get worried. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad the Board of Selectmen took the initiative to put 10% contingency in there. That was probably a wise move because you obviously might not know what you're gonna go up against once you start getting in there, so.
So also, they're saying that they're not gonna be able to do it till next year. Is they gonna hold that price?
Yes.
They will,
Yeah.
okay.
It
Bob
looks
met
like,
with them after the bids came in and went over scope with them and all, and he was satisfied with it. And if I remember correctly, Bob also said Earthworks did the extension of Edison Lane years ago when we extended Edison
was good
Lane
work.
to Marshall Road.
That's
So-
right.
So they've done work in the town in the past.
That's good.
Correct.
All right, good.
Oh, that's great.
Kevin, you want to make the motion?
Sure. Make a motion that we proceed with the project from Earthworks at a cost of $995.
No,
Actually doing the million,
$1,000,001, I think.
Bigger number.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, with $1,000,001 because of the contingency that they've added to it.
$1,100,000, not that.
Yep,
I'll second that.
So we're gonna
From
round it up to
American-
$1,000,001.
Yeah.
$1,000,001.
from our American Rescue Funds.
Correct.
American Rescue Funds.
So that was the motion.
Yeah, I
Jim
second it.
seconded.
Yeah, all
Any
good.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained,
Ted, you
unanimous.
good?
I'm good, yeah.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Okay, the old item 9, funding request, discussion and possible vote to transfer funds to cover fall road paving. Memo from Mr. Britton.
Okay, before you start there, whatever you do, they're $30,000 over what we've allotted to them for funds. So if you do nothing, we need $30,000 to cover what they did so far. Bob and I have looked in the budget.
There's nowhere else
There's
to
really no place to get it out of his
Maybe, but
budget.
if we're not sure and we have to wait until next month, there's no obvious source, but
Now, we had put in an initial thing, $1 million.
And then you
Then
gave
we
them
had
another
130
100,000.
something thousand.
Then you gave them another 100,000, so they had 1,100,000. They spent 1,130,000.
Okay, so that salt and those transfers wasn't for the.
it was
paving.
used for, yeah.
It was used for
Oh,
payment.
I thought
even-
that came up to 134.
No.
Oh,
No, I think it was, yeah, but regardless, we're about 30,000
that's fine.
in excess of
That's
available
fine.
funds.
Since we're dealing with numbers, they should
Yes.
have rightness and wrongness to them, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so, John, any concerns about,
I do have some concerns because we do have other capital items that we haven't funded. And it's up to you though, as a board.
You're looking at an additional 500?
well, do we
Well,
have?
I would give them, if you're gonna give them the 500, I would make it plain that the 30,000 they've already spent's
Yeah,
gotta come
470,
out of that.
yeah.
Yeah, and don't do it again.
I've said that, and I think it needs to be emphasized.
Like, don't do the last road if you're gonna go over.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, do up to, and, yeah, a total of 1 million.
Bob does have some good news on High Plains, the roof. You might as well tell him about that for now, at least
Yeah,
short term.
it's been a very
good
slow
news.
process, but we put in the warranty claim, and they've agreed to make repairs to the roof. They're not gonna put a new roof on, but they're gonna patch it, so we'll get a year or two out of it. But next year, maybe the year after, depending on we'll see how it is after the repairs get done. We're either gonna look at a coating, which gets you maybe a 10-year life for $500,000. These are just very rough numbers. Or maybe something like $2 million for a completely new roof. Tear everything off down to the deck. It's a very big roof, like 60,000
All right, so that's
square
a
feet.
future event, this is just a.
Just
But it's
something-
within like 2
But
years.
But it's not future like 30 years. It's
Roger
like-
that,
yeah, yes.
roger that.
Yeah.
Okay,
But not a current emergency.
And how old's the
If you-
current, how's
if
the
you-
roof on there? 20 years?
We had a 20-year warranty, which will be up in November.
God, I can't believe it's that old. I
Yeah.
remember when they tore all the, Jesus.
And you're gonna be looking at a new roof next year for the police station, as Max has said. And that's estimated.
That's
They're
been on there for
already,
30,
they're already leaking over
Yeah,
there.
that roof should have been changed years ago.
Yeah,
okay.
I was up on that roof.
I was too. So,
By the way, I think, Kevin, if I may, because it intersects with this particular line item, permit me to, if you're good with it, show you an adjustment. I created some of these slides. I called Donnie this morning when I saw this, okay? And last time, or a time ago, I've showed you, whoops, slides like this, okay? So if you just give me a second, I just want to show it to you again. Whoa, this is interesting. Man, I didn't know that this is, I wish Josh was here to tell me what I did. Okay, you guys can see that, so I'll just leave it on this. This is a chart I showed you a little while ago, a couple of months ago. This is, I talking to Donnie, you know how I do, I create a flow chart of what he's doing there, and then the different types of paving, and, you know, before you do the paving, underneath the 5 boxes there, you know, assess roads, develop an annual list, check your funding, connect it to suppliers, and then finalize and execute. when I saw this memo and I remembered the streets I had listed last spring when Donnie had an initial, I knew they were not the same. So I called him, and what happens is there's actually another step between 4 and 5, so I'm calling it 4A. In other words, when you connect back to your suppliers, and I think this makes sense to all of us, what they're going to do, Tilden and others, right? They're going to say, well, for those roads, and they'll send people out to say, oh, it'll cost you this for this road, this for this road, and it might not have fit into the $1 million, all right, or whatever the amount of money is. So that's really, you then have to go back and reassess your annual list. So I just wanted to let you know that in a meeting with this group, and anybody on OGAD watching, this is a list that I had printed out based on what I had seen from Donnie back in like January, February timeframe. And now this is the actual list. The yellow, the pink doesn't come out, but there are certain ones they had on the list in the spring that they did not pave because they ran out of when the money, the bids came in, we didn't have enough money. And there's a significant change to the planned list in the fall. And one of the ones they added there was Country Lane, which seems to dovetail with what you're doing or planning to do.
Well, the water company's putting in new water.
That's the one he said, yeah, the water company. And the Wolf Park one, the one over on the left, they were not ready because of all the other things going on at Wolf Park. So I just wanted to, since I had created these, rather than later tonight say, oh, by the way, remember when Mr. Britton was here telling us that, I just wanted to remind you of that. So I'll get out of Dodge now if you're good with that and go back to the memo.
So Jim, does the purple mean that those roads were slated to be done and they're not?
Well, it
going to
depends
be?
how you want to use the word slated.
Yeah.
All right. We got so many roads. That was like his wish list.
It's like
let's call it.
he prioritized them. Basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then he only had a certain amount of money, then he had to reprioritize based about the amount of money
Gotcha.
he had. That's what it is. So does that necessarily put them at the top of the list for the next year? I would think they would be it's kind of like Metro North, on or close to schedule, on or close to the top of the list, I would suspect, else they never would have been there for this year as well. That would be my guess. I don't want to, I'm not overseeing Donnie's department. He is
And like
there.
every year he reevaluates. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a tentative idea, 1 year out, 2 year out, 3 year out. But by the time you get to 3 years out, if some of them have really just fallen apart over the winter or something, you reprioritize.
Reprioritize, right, yep, gotcha.
So so if we make a motion for an additional, should we say up to
470.
and not exceeding $1.5 million for the year? Is that the way the motion would run?
No,
No, because you've already
it's a separate
approved.
500.
You're right.
Oh, so we would have to say an additional $470,000.
500, because they're already short 30.
He's holding bills right now because I
It's
don't have
500 is what
authorization to pay.
they're asking for. We either give them 30 and don't give them anything else, and we cover the bills,
No, you gotta give him 500.
and we don't do any, or we
Oh,
do
so we
the,
want to say 500, not 470.
500,
Yeah.
and he's gotta pay the 30 out of that. So
Right.
he's only got 470 new,
Okay.
correct.
yeah.
Well, to get the process started, I'll make that motion so we can have discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay?
Okay, now, any further discussion?
Okay, so you guys are comfortable with doing that, knowing that you had other things on the capital list?
Well, that's what I was gonna
that
ask you,
didn't-
what was, you
Yeah.
know,
Can we open up
an
a
item
file
that-
from last meeting and maybe that'll help us, John?
Open up our capital list that we had when we did the budget season.
Okay, let me see. And I do it by date, so.
I know there's one thing on there that they're putting together, keeping running with strings, is the bucket truck. that
Right, we leased
failed-
that thing 24 years ago,
that
or 23
failed-
years ago,
It
we're calling it.
failed its inspection last spring, and they were able to get it fixed. I don't know when it gets inspected again, Bob,
I think it's annual.
annual.
That was the best deal we ever had,
Yeah.
was we paid for it in 3 installments,
Capital account, John?
and it's still on the road.
Oakenquist, you might be.
So, yeah, that's gotta be
Is this it?
replaced
No,
somewhere.
it's got all the list of capital items that were requested.
John's final. Okay, this is March 20th. Does that feel like the date?
That would have been, that
Probably.
was the date we did it, yes.
Okay, so let's see John's final. That's revenue.
Revenue.
So that's not it. First revenue worked on, that's just me making.
Capital-
Fund balance projection?
No, that would have been, that's the dollar thing, that wouldn't be the actual items.
Be back in two.
By the way, if anybody knows how to get rid of this, all of a sudden this top area, you see all this white stuff here? I have no idea how this happened earlier today. In other words,
Hit a,
I don't know how to get rid of it,
824?
Kevin. I feel like calling my daughter, Dad.
see if you can click on 824 in upper left. Upper left.
This one?
Straight up.
Yeah, right there, make it A1.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah. What does that do?
No, it's print area, I don't think.
No.
Anyway, let's get the
Yeah.
right file, and you're saying this is not it, correct, John?
Correct.
Okay.
You have something that's called Oakenquist Capital?
Well, we'll give it a look. It would have to be an Excel file, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't see one in this date, is my
It
problem.
would be under capital.
4/12, I don't think we had a meeting. I don't think it would be town budget hearing, right? Because that's, well, it might be. I don't think so, though. Town budget files, John C., no.
Nope.
No, that would just be what's in, because the only thing I would put in the town budget hearing would be stuff having to relate to the budget. And I don't
We
think
would have did it on that March 20th date.
Yeah, I would think so, right?
Go to 3.6.
Okay? No,
Nope.
good guess. 417, no, it has to be in here, but I just don't know. Final budget Excel files.
Capital account balance.
Yeah, that was the one I
No, that
opened
was-
up.
that
I
was the
think
one
it's
he
still open, okay.
Revenue,
Yeah, it
no,
is.
right, no, that's the one he opened.
You know what it might be, John? It might not be an Excel file, because you didn't send me all of them in Excel.
You know what, it might have been in an email I sent you
Okay. We can
before that meeting.
We can do this.
Kevin, do you have it in your book under capital, under the last page? Maybe we could do it like that.
Well, here's Cifarelli, okay? And if we go Cifarelli emails to me.
Oh, we still haven't found it yet?
No.
Hey, 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 hey,
Take
hey.
less time for me to go upstairs and make paper copies?
I don't see capital in here, Jim.
No.
It should be in the back, way in the back.
The last thing
The
I,
last tab.
Ralph's driving over here now with
insurance,
copies.
town
It's
services,
after insurance.
Yeah. Budget charts.
oh, here it is, capital projects, yep, okay.
Does it have a date on it?
It should be, in the last thing, there should be a tab in the last one you sent us.
Yeah.
Did you call that up and didn't find it?
Can't find it.
Needs a potential
Oh,
funding source.
how about that one, Jim, right there? Yeah,
This one?
yeah, the 20th.
There it is,
Oakenquist
Oakenquist Capital
Capital.
List.
Right there, all the way left. Nope.
Yeah.
One,
Right.
one down and one over.
Yep.
This one here?
No, second, second,
Second row right there, third
Second
one.
row, third down.
Right there,
Right.
down.
Yep.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
yep, that's it.
That's it.
Boy, I wish we had the Excel.
You gotta zoom into that, yeah.
Okay, so we know. So to guide us here a little bit, John,
Okay, I
what
think,
did we
if we
actually?
remember correctly, I think what's circled there is what we
Approved.
approved. Let me double check that, because I got that here.
Yeah, I should have it here too.
Oh,
We approved shingles at Peck Place, 24.5.
Roger that, number 7,
Concrete steps at Turkey Hill,
Number 8.
39.75.
correct?
Yep.
Furniture refurbishment, 100,000.
I don't see that.
I think they had a smaller amount, and we gave them more. Down towards the bottom, I think it is. Yeah,
Furniture,
School
100K,
furniture, 24.
24, thank you.
100,000.
okay, and then the radio tower for the police, 109.5.
Yep.
That was up the top.
Yep.
Yep,
Townwide computer printing life cycle,
number
12,000.
9,
Repair column base at High Plains,
number
15,000.
12,
Steam heater and valves at the boiler room at High Plains, 52.
I don't know where that is.
I don't see it.
Which one are you looking
Was that something new?
52, the the valves in the header and valves in the boiler room
Yeah.
at High Plains.
Number 20.
Number
replace
20.
the attic, Steve
Oh, it's 150?
It's 150.
Oh, that's the
Oh,
next
yeah,
one.
we have 150, we don't have the 52.
Where's the 52? We gave
Pneumatic
it,
steam heat controls, and then we have the valves, a separate one. So we got 202 altogether there. Is it, here's 20, is that part of it?
No, that's the fire.
no,
it's
that's,
the firehouse. That's the
that's the
fire.
fire station. That's the
Oh,
last
okay,
one.
sorry.
We did that one though, too.
I
Yeah.
don't think there was a 52,000.
It was
We did it.
someplace because we did
I
it.
didn't get a memo about it, so maybe it got lost in the.
Okay, so
All
somewhere,
right, so somewhere we got that.
well, I think we, somewhere is nice, but we have a little gap
Well,
in our
we-
system here.
We had it. I know we had it.
Okay.
Okay, but we're using this for a different reason, not just that
So,
reason, right?
so anything not circled up there, we didn't do.
Okay.
We said number 3, they're working on trying to get that through
But we have to.
emergency management.
But before, okay, now we have our list, we can come back to our list. How do we know how much money we have from which we are now liberally, or not liberally, we're considering spending, right? So,
The capital projects fund as of June 30th.
you're right. Is that this thing?
That's that.
Okay, good. So now we can kind of see where we stand. Does it mean that our current, we transferred over $1.5 million, right? And we had a new balance of 2.8, does that sound right?
Yes, except for, we got to take out this 514 that we already spent, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah,
That was not included. We had
Right.
paving, we had police server,
right.
we had encumbrances, we had whatever payments.
Yeah, it's not in
Chris, are
there.
you okay?
If you hit that F of X button up there on the top left, right next to.
Right there?
Yeah,
Yep.
what happens there? Oh, no, does it go away?
No.
I was trying to see, I was trying to get rid of that big white.
Yeah.
I might, by the way, I'll stay a good piece of the night if we can get rid of this after we get out
I
done.
didn't interrupt, I just wanted to see.
No, I appreciate you coming in and giving us a look.
Cancel.
Cancel.
Cancel, okay. So we are talking about, we need to subtract from this, John, right, something, 514?
514.
Okay,
you
and
have
just to give it a
And
name,
you
why
have
don't we
to,
give,
and you have to subtract what you just did for Max, for the police department also.
okay, fine, just give me a name for 514.
Current year,
Yeah, approved.
24, 20, 23, 24 capital approved.
Okay, roger that.
And underneath put 38,000.
And then we have a 38,000 here.
Yep.
All right, thank you, and we'll call it police something.
Police
Microwave tower.
antenna.
Microwave
Microwave.
link, right?
Yeah.
Microwave link?
Link, okay, you good with
Yep,
that?
yep.
Okay, so that means our new budget would be, or our available money would be this minus these two, correct?
Right.
That's probably a better way of doing it, but this will get us there.
2302.
All right, so it's new balance as of, I'll call this the new balance, okay? Kind of like a
Yep.
new pair of running shoes. As of, well, I'll leave it there, and I'll send you this file, John. I'll send the team the file. So this is our actual new balance now, all right? So whatever we subtract off here, so for example, now, when we would have to do the full 500, right?
Yeah.
Kevin? So let's just push it in there to see what happens when we do that. Right? Road
2.8.
paving. A fall road paving, I'll call it. Okay. All right, so that's what we have here, which would again, we all know how to do it in our heads, but why don't we let Excel enlighten what it thinks it is. All right, so we'll just put that there and just put this here. Okay, and this is fall road paving. Now, we have a big deal on having this be a ratio, or do we? No, this
No, we
doesn't
don't.
have, this is just capital, what do you call it? Just the amount of
Capital
money in our
fund.
capital
Yeah.
account.
Capital fund.
Okay. So now, with this thought in mind, John, well, now that we have that number, we can now kind of push this over here, right? And we can look at other things, like we're thinking about this 500 is in question, I guess we could say, right?
Well, this is good,
No,
because this is gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not advocating that you spend money here or there. I'm just saying, if you're looking to spend
It gets
money,
depleted.
you need to look at both sides. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is you got $1.8 million, and this year is trending, we're trending favorable for this year, based on revenues, at least.
Revenue, we
Yeah,
are.
right.
On the expense side,
Right.
we're gonna be very close.
Tight.
I mean, there's some things up there, like I'm concerned about number 2.
Yes.
Bob's concerned about number 4 because he's got a failing system, I believe, over there at the library, right? That you've been
Another failing
patching.
system?
Tower is, yeah.
Yeah.
leaking.
I mean, there's number 5 you just took care of tonight.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we've already prioritized these based on what we
Trying to
approved.
remember The details on the bucket truck, I think it was the bucket truck that if you approve it, they're not getting it for a year or so. I mean, there's a long lead time to get something.
Right.
Is that on here?
Yeah, it's number
Number 14.
14, Kev.
Now, this
Oh,
list
okay.
was prioritized by the Oakenquist committee.
Yeah.
Right.
And what we funded was something that Kevin and I and the first selectman sat down and talked about. And that's where our funding items came from.
So,
So if you look at what might be urgent in the coming year, it's probably 4 and 14.
so
Yes.
300,000.
Yes.
So,
And then if you're gonna do some paving in the spring,
That's
you're
not,
gonna
I don't even
do,
wanna talk
yeah.
about that now, because
So-
everybody wants to, and I know they do, but that decision won't, in my opinion, and I might not be here, it won't be made until next year, because what happens in October can have a dramatic effect on our budget next year. And that's when Amity does the ADM. If that swings back to us, we could be out $1.5 million like that.
right, right.
And so until then, I mean, everybody can override everybody on the, we have a board, but to promise any money for the spring, you can't, in my opinion, do that until we know what that October number is.
And you never know, you could have some kind of emergency.
Oh, absolutely.
Anytime that could cost you, I mean, High Plains costs, what, $1 million? That's just what I'm saying.
Yeah.
all right, so we are, if I think, from a process perspective, Kevin, we're still in the discussion phase.
We're still in the discussion, correct?
Phase, and we've been doing a good job of the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, remember the original memo, Don Boyer asked for 1.5 million for the year. And
Right.
You guys wanted to, we'll give you $1 million and then we'll reconsider.
Right.
John.
But every
John was
department
right.
asks us for more too.
Yeah.
I appreciate it,
Yeah, no, I'm saying-
and Donnie is a huge asset to the town, but yeah, we,
No, I'm just saying it's not, this is just a continuation of the original.
of that,
review.
yes,
Yeah.
what he wanted, and I,
John Sifrich is correct, and you're doing what you should be doing, looking at everything else when you're making your decision whether to approve the 500,000 or not.
I'd be willing to support the 500,000. First of all, I think we've established a precedent for Don to come in here and tell us, look, you can't be telling me in the last minute,
Right.
right? When, because I got to get those heads done, and I have labor now to get the heads done. But I think we have to, we very, very much might need to tap the brakes a little bit on the level of funding for roads going forward after this, if we go forward with this as a board. But that's my opening bit on thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable going with the $500,000. I think we're gonna run another surplus again this year. I think it's gonna be not as sizable as other years, but I still think you're gonna have a surplus. So I'd be comfortable with the 500, and then to Kevin's point, kind of reassess in October. John will have a harder number or a harder estimate on what the ending fiscal year '23 will entail, and we can go from there. But
I won't have it in October.
yeah, but at least you have a good feel for what.
you have a good
Yeah.
feeling, we'll have that Amity ADM number, which is.
Right,
that's-
exactly.
That's
That's right.
the,
Yeah.
that's the scary swing to me.
Yeah.
Because that could be
Yep.
be nominal.
Yep.
Could be like this year, we kind of won the lottery, or it could be where we've had in the past where it swings the other way and we're out $1.5 million without an increase.
Yeah.
And that, we need to know before next.
And for everybody who at home and hearing us talk about Amity ADM numbers, it's a reminder is this. Our budget amount that we get assigned for Amity is a function of the number of students that enroll there. And this year, we had a 1.5% reduction, which meant that we will be, I think I calculated $810,000. 1% is on a $54 million budget being 540, and then half of that's 270. Add those two numbers up, you get 810.
Yeah.
So that's why we're thinking of that. As far as letting Donnie know the heads up, Kevin, he came this year in January, February with next
Right.
calendar year
Right.
paving.
Right.
So I think by that time, we'll have the ADM.
Yep.
We'll have on or close to Michelle Alasso coming in here with what our true,
Yeah, John will have a pretty good estimate by
At
then,
that
where we're
point.
gonna land, so.
Right.
Yeah,
And we'll
listen, I'm
know
pretty
more.
comfortable with the $500,000. I'll entertain or make a motion to approve.
Did you make, we already had a motion.
we
and a
are,
second.
Oh, we already-
made a
okay.
motion.
Yeah.
We're still
So-
in discussion. Kevin, how about your thoughts on the?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin that,
Okay.
the 500 I feel comfortable with, because we're probably gonna have a surplus, as you said, this year, and then we just don't commit the $1.5 million that he's looking for in addition, until we know the stuff, the Amity stuff and all that other stuff in the fall. And we go from there, and then we put it in the budget next year.
Kev, how about you?
I'm good with that,
Okay.
but I'd also like to have them. John, we paid for the blast bucket truck over 3 years. Could we have someone look at that to get that ball rolling?
Bob?
We
Okay.
did a 3-year loan or lease buy.
Yeah, I'm not
buyout.
sure we want to do that with the interest
Depends
rates
on what the
the way
interest rates
they
are.
are.
Right, you're right.
I mean,
But-
we got the,
Let's do it.
depending on what the price
Because
is.
that's been a great asset and it's
Yeah.
used. And I didn't
Okay.
realize it was 20 years old.
23?
23 years
23.
old. Yeah,
Yeah,
So that was my first year and a half when we bought that thing.
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Tony,
Tony
okay.
Nastri.
All right, so if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Just hold it.
Oh,
That 500,000's got to include that 30,000. that-
correct.
Yeah.
So the motion
So
is,
long as Bob understands that.
Yeah, I understand.
so the motion is, since I made it, to, where's our agenda? To approve an additional 500,000 for road paving, all right,
From capital account.
from capital. This 500,000, second sentence, this 500,000 will include the $30,000 overrun. If someone wants to edit my words, feel free, occurred year to date.
So that was the original motion, and Kevin seconded.
I
You still
second
good
it.
with that?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
All right.
opposed, abstained, unanimous.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Oh, we're doing,
Okay, the old item 5, Amity update. Joe's not here, but Jim, do you have anything on that along with your
well,
vice chairman's report?
it's going to be included in the
Combined.
chairman's report, so let me just get right to that, and I'll just fire right through it. In the last meeting, to those who were not watching on TV, I know this, everybody in this room were here, there was a report from the Yale School of Management on investment performance of each state. I think that is so dramatic and important that people in our town know this, that I put together a couple slides. But I still consider you, Kevin, and particularly you, Kevin, all right, and Kevin Moffett as and John too, and myself, but less so. So I put together a couple slides on that. I already showed you the Highway Department process for road paving. I have a very quick summary of the Amity budget to date, and then I have a calendar if we need that, okay? So here it is. So the state investment performance, this is the Yale School of Management study. As you can see on the screen here, and everybody, I think this is the one you distributed, if I remember right, Kevin Houlihan.
Yes.
What you see in the lower right, particularly if you're at home and see the screen, we're kind of in the room here, Connecticut had the second worst investment performance of any state. And I believe this is a percent return year over year of each state. And I believe that's Washington State has 10.9. Am I reading that right up there, team? Annual return. And 10.93, I can see in the words there. And Connecticut had 5.8.
5.8.
Okay, and you know, you start looking at numbers, and if you're not familiar with the math as much, you say, oh, it's a little bit more, and someone else will say, oh, it's double. All right, but what that represented is 10.7 billion in lost investment revenue for Connecticut. In other words, because we only had 5.8 and not 10.9, and you can say, well, if you got halfway there, I mean, that's a massive, massive amount of money, all right? So we talk about, oh, we should increase taxes, we should spend less taxes to pay, or we need to fund more things. This is investment returns of money, what, teachers' unions and stuff like that, Kevin? Is that the funding source,
Yeah.
which type of thing? And not just teachers' unions, state employees. And this is, you know, so being good at this is a real big deal. And we are one of the worst. The
Yeah,
state of Connecticut.
Connecticut's portfolio overall is right around 40, I think it's about $42 billion.
Billion?
Yeah.
Good, that's a number I'm gonna ask you to remember when I
Yeah.
show you the next charts. This is another chart, this is 3 years, again, 12% for the state of Washington. Connecticut was 5.4, again, a second chart that was in the article you submitted, Kev, so I wanted to put that in. I couldn't quite follow this chart so much, but basically I knew the concept, and that is the asset allocation. I guess you have to throw the word strategic in to get your MBA money's worth. Connecticut and Washington, and frankly, I don't care. And certainly I find it almost offensive mentally that they have colors, like the orange is one color on the left and one color on the right, but doesn't represent the same thing. It was driving my head nuts. So I just avoided it. But basically, you make a decision as a state investment person or committee on what you're going to invest your money in. And what's happening here is Washington is leading the league, all right, and we're in the bottom of the barrel, okay? What the specific investments are, we don't need to go through here unless one of you three or four want to comment on it. I'll leave it up there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that kind of sticks out for me is, the state of Washington's performance. 29% of their portfolio is in private equity.
Yeah.
And private equity did really well over the last 5 years versus,
Okay.
it looks like Connecticut has 12% in private investments or private equity, if I'm reading
However
right.
it's done,
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah.
So then they had this chart comparing the 80, 20, 70, 30, 60, 40 portfolios and what the 3, 5, 7, and 10-year average was. All right, and you can see the Connecticut number down there in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, 10 year. And much like when we do the doing more with less chart and the big Einstein's theory of the value of money, what I decided to do is take the 10-year thing there over to the right. So fix your eyes on the 10.62 on the 80-20 and the Connecticut 7.28. And again, you say, oh, that's only a couple points difference. Let's take a look, since I did a little calculation for us to see this difference. I call this the impact of better investment approach. And so on the right there, you see the investment portfolio of 80-20 in Connecticut actual. There's your 10.62 and your 7.28. Over a 10-year period, that was the average over a 10-year period. You take $1 billion, and how many billion do we have, Kevin?
42 billion.
42 billion, not 1 billion. And what you get at the end of 10 years on the Connecticut actual, the 7.28 per year, you get about 2 billion, a little over 2 billion. But if you had the 80-20 investment portfolio, you would have 2.743 billion. What that says in this very real life example, right? that over 10 years, the 80-20 investment outgains this Connecticut actual by over 700 million. 700 million. And we don't have 1 billion. We had how many billion, Kev?
42, yeah.
42 times 700 million. In a certain way, this is just like your home. This is like the money you're getting out of your returns. So if your state was investing better, it would have more money. It could either fund more things, reduce the tax burdens. You have a lot of choices. But you don't have those choices when you're not good at this particular skill of investing. So I just wanted, thank you for, I read the article, I said, let me put a couple charts together.
Me.
All right. I already showed you the road paving ones. So the final thing I have for you is the Amity budget status. I wrote this in an email, and it's pretty much the same as I wrote to the team in the email when I read it. But I want to make sure everybody in town is familiar with the data. There's two things that make up the budget surplus. It's what's called the net balance in the reports we get, and then what they move over to the transfer account, which is also non-budgeted items, and so it's part of the budget surplus. So right now, we have at the end of May, so this is the last year in June, the Amity fiscal year 2023 budget passed on the third referendum. We all remember that. So at the end of May, the current budget surplus is $1,717,557. That's just the data that's come out from Amity. They have 1 month to go in the rest of the year. If you go back and look at the fiscal 21-22 budget, there's the number, $51,698,207. The current fiscal year budget, $53,349,805. And you just subtract the two, and the budget increase in terms of the amount of money is $1,651,598, which is that 3.19% increase that got voted and accepted in the third referendum. When you look at the actual budget data in the Excel document that you have, that all of us have, and gets distributed monthly, right now, they are projecting that the end of the year they will have spent, I call it the actual budget need, what they needed to spend in order to do all the good things they do at Amity, is $1,632,248. Where does that number come from? It comes from the budget number, $53,349,805, right? And subtracting off the surplus, $1,717,557. That's where it comes from. Which tells me that the increase needed, as identified by the Amity administration right now, was that, well, the increase needed was actually, compared to last year, a negative number. It was a negative number by $65,959, which means that they could have gotten by with a negative 0.13% budget increase. Now, if you recall, we said we would support a positive budget increase of I think it was last year, 0.45.
4-1. Yeah.
4.1, might have won last, I think this year was 4.5. You're
Yep,
correct?
yep.
Thank you, Kevin. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that this is the data.
So Jim, you're saying at the end of this fiscal year that we're gonna be winding up in 2 weeks, the projected surplus is $1,000,007?
That's correct.
Yeah.
When you look at the Excel
Without
document.
June in there yet, so it could be
Without
higher.
June.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
And how I get that, Kevin, when you look at the thing, there's the line there that says net balance, but they have moved a number into what they're calling a transfer account.
Which is their capital, that they're putting that money into that capital account.
Right.
Right.
But from a budget perspective,
Gotcha.
right, since people vote on budgets, they don't vote on, that kind of thing. So all I'm saying is, and when you look at it, this isn't any different than what's been going on for years. When you look at this chart, and I have not put the new data up yet because the year is not out, but the budget increases are in the blue. The surplus money in that budget is in the orange. And for every year but one, going back for the last about 12 to 14 years, what you're seeing here today is exactly what's been going on for all this time. So when people in the street happen to ask me about whatever about the Amity budgets, and if they stay long enough to have a conversation and look at the data, this is the type of thing I would tell them. And I thought I would just mention it to remind all of us and anybody watching at home. We think Amity does a terrific job, and they could do it for less. And I think the data supports that. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jim.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, item number 10, discussion and approval of minutes from Monday, May 15th, 2023.
Minutes. John, you batting lead off, I assume?
Actually didn't have anything.
No? Oh, I might have. Let's see, public, item 2, second bullet point, first page. Kevin, I'll offer it to you as an idea. The last sentence, while Chairman Houlihan would love to fully fund road paving, I don't know if you want to leave it that way, but I would offer it that that's.
Where's that?
First page.
Yep.
In the second,
Second
second
Item
bullet.
two, second paragraph,
Second paragraph, last sentence. It's the terminology, Chairman, third line up in
Would love
that.
to fully fund.
Love to fully fund. I would offer, if you wish, and it's only if you wish, I'd be happy to leave it, would support fully fund road paving or something to that. I think that captured your spirit of the meeting, but I don't know if you wanted to.
If I said that, I
Oh,
don't,
I'm pretty sure you said it.
if I said it, then it's gotta stay.
Okay, roger that. I just wanted to give you a shot at it.
No, I appreciate it, but if I said it, I own it.
Okay. On the 3, on page 2, Amity update, Mr. Nuzzo, on the first paragraph. It's the second last sentence that runs like this. The current Amity surplus is slightly over $1.6 million, of which they will transfer, it's not 2% of the surplus. They will transfer up to,
Yeah,
right, 2% of the fiscal year 22-23 budget. That's rather than the surplus. And so that's one, Deb. And continuing on that sentence, into their capital reserve account. I don't think it's contingency. Joe may have used the word, but if he did, it was inadvertent because it's the capital reserve account.
correct.
In the vice chairman report, next section, when you're ready, Deb. Mr. Leahy reported that Amity budget items have gone down this month, and then put salary, benefits, and supplies. Those are the 3 I spiked out. Then I would just, to make the words flow into the next next sentence, I would say, in addition, he also spoke, all right? Lastly, continuing in that paragraph, Mr. Leahy questioned, ED, the methodology of, and then I would take out the words "in purpose of taking bonds in lieu of," question the methodology of taxing residents, in other words, you pick up that last sentence there, the methodology of taxing residents in the current budget for any expense that will last 20 years, 20 plus years, and not taking out bonds for the cost of these items. So I'll read that last sentence so everybody can edit it with me because it might be a little awkward. Lastly, Mr. Leahy questioned methodology of taxing residents in the current budget year for any expense or expenditure, for any expenditure that will last 20 plus years and not taking out bonds for the cost of these items. In other words, and I think that's common accounting, is it not?
Yeah, you wanna match your.
Yeah, if we buy something, right, and we put it into wherever in a budget, whether it's Amity or the town, if we tax me or the residents this year for all of it for the next 20 years, then I'm paying for 20 years worth of that asset. I move next year, I should almost get a credit, right?
No, it's like, you know, with the roof at the police department, if it's 2 million, we're not gonna put 2 million in the budget next year to pay for it all at once.
And that's all I
Yeah.
have, Kevin.
I don't think we are, but, okay, great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve as amended?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Jim? Is there a second?
So moved.
Second by- Any further
Got a
discussion?
little slower around.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. One abstention.
Yeah.
301. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, item number 11, to review revenue and expense reports for June 2023. But they're really not June, because we're in June.
Yeah, it's a kind of 11 and a half
We got
month
about
worse.
11 and a half.
Yeah, like under 95% there. John, I suggest we do these one at a time. I've gone through both, and I have a number of questions, but I hope.
Shoot.
Revenue.
So
Start
I'm
with
in
revenue.
revenue, so I'm gonna go through pages, so why don't we stick together? Anybody's got one by page, just shout it out. But I'm on this, can you tell me about page 2, John? Where, that's page 1. On page 2, we have this, trying to find it now. Excuse me, page 3. We have this $275,000 state revenue top of the page. We didn't budget for it, so I'm wondering.
Yeah, that was.
Remind me what that is.
Because our budget didn't go over the, what was it, 2%, 2.5%?
2.5%
last
cap,
year.
the
We
cap.
got our money back.
Ah.
We got our money for the year.
So we get 275,000 if our budget does
Doesn't
not go over.
a certain percentage. I think it's
It's 2.5%
2.5%,
cap,
right?
the
Yeah,
spending cap, yeah.
Right.
So I would like us to remember that. That's a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah, that's
Underneath that,
fantastic.
the special duty, John, are we expecting
That's
that?
at the end of the year. We'll get that, probably more.
Okay,
There was
thank
a
you.
lot of special duty this year because of those,
And we
Okay.
paid for the car out of it.
yeah.
Yep.
Those
Okay.
cable companies fighting to get that fiber in too.
Okay.
There were police all over the place.
I have, next for me is on page 4, are we going to get the 60,000 or more from Park and Rec?
We'll get
self-help?
some of that. I don't know how much, so.
I remember they had up, what, 500,000 in their kitty?
And they might,
Okay.
It's gonna
Okay.
sit there too until they need a big
Okay.
lawnmower.
Excess
Yeah, that's
cost.
some equipment needs that probably have to spend it on.
Yeah.
Last page for me, team, would be last page would be page 6, would be, I'm not sure with the cryptic notion there, top of the page, the 77,000, John, it's more than
That's
expected.
when town employees go out on workman's comp, mostly police right now. We pay 100% of their salary and the insurance company pays us back about 66%.
And so this is the 60%
Yeah,
that's come
coming
back. And to Kevin's earlier point, it looks like we are to the good, to the good of about $1 million on the revenue side. Even
Million three.
$1,300,000.
You gotta take out the excess costs, that's 133. I figured in 100,000 for police, I figured in 60,000 for Park and Rec, 200,000 for OV&A, and 25,000 for sewer. I figure about $1,348,000, give or take,
Revenue surplus.
yeah.
Projection, yeah.
$1,348,000 on a give and take, I like that.
Yeah, he's not 1.3 or 1.4. 148,500 maybe?
Anybody else on the
But it
revenue
is right
side?
now. Don't go down the street and bet.
Don't spend it all in one place. Okay, we know it's a 27-page beauty, but here we go. So I have nothing on page 1, so if you're on a page 1, right, wait a minute, let me get into the revenue here. I think I'm gonna make it, or try to make it one more large, there it is, okay.
Like I said, most of the salary accounts are over right now. and I'll do adjustments.
Yeah,
after
I could see that,
the
that
end
they-
of the
they
year.
didn't have much of-
Actually, there's almost two complete payrolls that have to go in here.
Right.
Because we're being paid on Friday, and then the next payroll shut-off date is July 1st.
Right.
Which means 13 of the 14 days are really in this year.
Correct.
So Art's gonna have to accrue almost
Yep.
100% of that payroll.
But all of Amity and all of the OBOF are in here.
Yes.
OBO,
Yes.
OBO,
Yes,
OBO.
they got their final payments for
Okay.
the year.
Okay, so here I go. I'm on page 3. At the top of the page, I'm seeing in the first building inspection, that 21,000, it was budgeted or is expended?
That's
Help me
a-
understand what's going on
That's a new person in the building department.
here. Okay.
He came in the other year,
Okay.
middle of the year. That's one of the ones that we'll take care of at the end of the year.
Okay. The next one I have is in the middle of page 4. It's my overall view of what we have here in legal. Seems like.
They're always way behind in billing. I would expect most of that to go by the end of the year,
Oh, really?
yeah.
100K.
Okay. I thought we had a best practice going on here. I don't have anything on the next couple of pages. I do have an item over here on page 10. So I'm going to slide down to there. If anybody's got anything, I'll be happy to
No,
go to your page. So here's page 10. He thinks. Okay, there's page 10. Where's the line item I'm looking for here? No, it's page 11. Boy, it's great getting younger here. Kev, I don't know how you do it. What's going on with software maintenance in the fire marshal's area, the second last item?
Software maintenance.
It's
I
way
would
under.
thought that that would have been something, reoccurring during the year.
I don't know, I gotta check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Could be a June 30th invoice.
Yeah?
It could be.
Okay, all right, all right. On the next page, John, that water fire hydrant, bottom of page 12.
We haven't gotten the bill yet, we're gonna be.
Twice a year
We're gonna
billing.
be overspent. What you see that we paid is probably gonna be the second bill or more.
Okay, so
So
we're
gonna be short
Be
there.
short 25,000, give or
Yeah.
take.
Okay.
And then if you look right above that, I might as well call it to your attention, the negative 5,600 on the electricity there on traffic lights.
Yep.
There's a misposting of $8,200 there. We found that today and we caught it in our review, so that'll
We-
bring
It's gonna
that
reverse
back.
out the other way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Traffic lights.
it should have been
is-
posted to another account.
Okay.
Where is the traffic lights, John?
That negative 5,600 right above the
Yes, I see that.
hydrant, that negative 5,600 has a charge to it of 8,200 that shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there, so
Should be
that'll
in
come
another
down.
account.
It'll go somewhere
Right.
else, it's
Okay.
gonna go up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, this is when I was getting through this one, so I'm on page 13, and that's when I had the mental block. So I'm gonna use streets and bridges, okay? Which is down near the bottom. But I'm not really asking about the specifics of the number of that. But
Before you ask the question,
Yes.
let me say that's all going, that's part of those bills that Bob has that he hasn't paid because he didn't have 30,000, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's what really happened, all right? What really happened to my brain was this, and I have to get on the screen here. This column to the left was the original appropriation, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna call that column whatever, A. Then we have transfers and adjustments, and then we have a revised budget. So we have these three going across.
Right.
All right, and this is going to become very important when we get to a final page. And then we have our year-to-date expenditures. Okay, so we have our budget or a revised budget, now we have expenditures, and we haven't spent it yet, but we're going to encumber it. So you add the year-to-date expenditures, you get your encumbrance, and then you have your available budget. The revised less the two expended in the encumbrances, and then you have an available budget, right? But I thought I heard you say, and I'm going to use streets and bridges as the example, not the specific numbers, but the example, that if any line item, but I'll use streets and bridges, and it may be like you say, Bob has some numbers, so it won't be 141,000 when the year is over. If they had available budgets, I thought I heard you say that the transfers and expend adjustments were sometimes from encumbrances from prior years. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I thought that at the end of the year, so I'm really asking you to modify my thinking, and I'm serious about this. I'm not baiting you. I would have thought that when we had extra money in this, the money kind of went into our bank account, to think of it that way, all right?
Depends.
Tell me more about depends.
Depends. If you have money left over at the end of the year, sometimes they encumber it, so it doesn't go in the bank account.
Right, it's not in the general fund, it's,
The only money that goes in the bank account is what's left in that final column at the end. That available column. That's the only money that would go in the bank account.
So if it
Or
was
fund
using
balance.
streets and bridges for the current numbers, and let's just say they stayed this way, just for.
Then the
That would mean
141
141 would go into the
fund
bank
balance,
account.
right.
So it has to be in the encumbrances column for that to happen for the next year?
Say that again, I'm
Okay,
not sure.
you
I
see
we
the
have to
encumbrance-
encumber the 141.
To make it,
To
to
make it
leave it
so-
for
To
next
put it
year.
into the transfer adjustments account
For
for
the
the
next
prior
year.
year.
Right.
Yep, you're
Okay,
right, Jim.
that's what I meant. I'm
Right.
serious. My brain was sitting here and wait a minute, you know. And then I said I would ask it tonight when we got the streets and prisons. Thank you for your patience. Okay? Now I'm on page.
And it's a little, let me just say, if I were to run this report for you
Yeah,
before we close the year end, or the next year, if I were to run next year's report, if we met in September, let's say,
Yeah.
and I were to run you the new report for 23, 24, it would probably confuse you because our budget year hasn't been closed yet for 22, 23.
because you have to wait for
Because-
Michelle to do
because
that.
it moves stuff from columns to get it updated.
Okay, so don't go
When
heavy
you
on this in
when you have
September.
2 years open, it's a little
Okay.
confusing
No,
until you get
okay,
it closed.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the coaching.
And it was, in all fairness, it was confusing to us when we started with Munis too, and how that worked.
Okay, I'm on the top of page 15. I would love to know why we have two residential recycling,
Because there's one that picks it up at your house.
yeah.
And then there's other one that gets rid of it. It's a two-step process.
Okay,
There's two different companies involved. The company that picks it up then brings it to a place where theoretically it's supposed to be recycled.
and the second one that had a $60,000 transfer or adjustment, which one is that?
That's the one, I believe, where we take it to after it's picked up at the house.
The 85,000
Oh,
budget
he's still
is,
here.
That's the tipping fee. We're budgeting for a tipping fee now that we're paying a tipping fee for recycling. And the
Oh, then-
175,000 original budget is for the curbside pickup as well as recycles that are hauled from the transfer.
And the 60,000 that got added to that? The 175, as you can see, there was a transfer of 60. What happened there?
That's to cover the 235.
Yeah.
Yep. But there was an
That's-
increase. Wasn't there an increase? in
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah,
I
big
think
one.
that 60,000 we encumbered from the previous year because we knew we had a problem.
Oh, okay.
I think, I
Then we have a
believe.
bigger problem this year, right? Isn't it?
Well, remember, we've given you a memo on that. We now think we're probably gonna break close to even. At one time, we thought we were, what, 100,000 short? 150 short there?
Okay. All right, well, I just noticed it and gave us something to kind of have a quick discussion on. I'm going to roll over to page 19. And it's at the top of the, near the top of the page, the first one under environmental health. It looked like we budgeted 17,750 and we never spent a penny. I was wondering what's going on.
That was an outside consultant that used to come in to work.
Yep.
And then we were using it for his website during the COVID-19 problem because he needed to keep his website up. And then he didn't need to do that anymore, so he hasn't actually used it.
Okay,
His
that's fine.
outside consultant became a full-time employee for the town, so that was
Oh, okay,
the
I
other
remember
thing
something like
there.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, John.
I believe in the new budget that's gone, we took that out.
All right, I'm on page 21 now. We're in the home stretch here, kind of. There were two line items. One was in the salary of the elderly coordinator and also the salaries of the van drivers.
Yeah, the elderly coordinator, if you remember, that's Dennis, and he worked as the community service director for a while.
Okay.
So his salary was taken out of there, so some of that will
And the
fall back.
van
to-
drivers' salaries are...
The van driver, again, because of COVID, they weren't using them as much as they need to be.
Roger that.
That will fall more in line again in the new year.
4 questions or 5 questions here, or maybe 6. In employee benefits, I see that we have a healthy reserve in negotiations.
Well, that's because I haven't done the transfers yet for the.
Cover all the salary
He hasn't done the
increases.
move yet.
Yeah.
Honest answer, we accept.
I think what I may want to do too, and I'll have to bring it before the board because it'll be a lot. If there's any, and we still don't have a contract with the dispatchers, so I do have to keep something encumbered there. We're going into the
Yep.
second year without it. But I think I'd like you to maybe vote on moving some of that money, if there's some left, into the sick line account, because we do have some payoffs that we're gonna have to make in the next coming
The
years.
accrued
for-
sick leave line
Yeah.
item, John?
So we don't have to keep bumping that up every year in the new budget.
Do we need to do that now?
No, because I don't know the number.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 items under that, John, is that look firm now that we're going to have whatever Social Security is going to be 100,000 to the good?
No, this, like I said, there's two
June.
Okay.
Two more
two
pa-
payrolls.
Two payrolls
good.
left.
Two payrolls.
All right, asked and answered.
Same
Working-
thing with Medicare there.
How about the working men's comp premium?
I'm gonna have a bill at the end of the year. They do a audit.
Okay,
I'll probably let some of that money fall in because I have that big encumbrance there.
Roger. Pension other, third from the bottom, 95,000.
Where's that? 90. Again, we have two payrolls. Those are the 401.
Okay, they'll be
town
not 95,000.
matches.
And the last one there, the 30,000.
Yeah, there's a bill that went in the wrong spot in one of the other areas. It's $12,000 that needs to be charged into there.
Is that for
Okay.
Fiducia?
Yeah,
Fiducia?
that was when we did the RFP,
Yeah.
the cost of the RFP.
Okay, so I'm now going to go to the last page, and I can see that at this moment in time, it looks like we have, compared to our adjusted budget, revised budget, we have $1,309,000
Right.
still there. Okay. Now let's educate me again honestly, I'm not, no baiting here. I have to have my mind understand what's going on in the capital projects account, because here's what I'm thinking. I can see that we adjusted 84,000, I don't remember the specific thing.
That's an encumbrance I'm holding for some emergencies that
Okay.
we may need in town.
I do-
Those numbers were, that was over the last 2 years where I was able to pull a few transfers out of different departments to
Okay.
get that number.
I definitely remember us moving $1,500,000 into capital,
That's what that is.
okay. But what I thought I was here, and here's where you have to either, educate me or however you want to call it. It feels like what I'm seeing here is I have a budget and then I expended $1,500,000 out of that budget that I didn't have in the budget. And does that mean that if that was not done, I would have, rather than 1,309 there, I would have 2,809?
I think you still have 2809. I think it's just the way Art has to do the bookkeeping to get that $1,500,000 into the fund, into the
Then with even
capital
two
account.
payrolls and everything else, like you're saying, that there's a surplus on the expenditure side.
Right. It's
But
exactly
if-
where I
But
was
if we
going.
go back, you're not gonna see at the end of the year 2.8. Like you said, there's
No.
2 payrolls and
There's
other
other stuff,
costs
but
that have
is
to.
there still 1 million? Is there 500,000, or whatever that number is it a break even?
Yeah,
Or
I don't need
I
an answer now,
think,
John.
I think we're close to break even or a little more there. I don't think we're gonna generate $500,000, so, on this side.
John, even Matt, answer me this, although that's really the important.
If we went back department by department.
Yes.
And looked at the available budget now, other than a couple of departments, they're really, in the benefit area, there's really no money there. So that's why I say that.
Okay,
Without knowing that we had 2 more payrolls to go, all I said was I was looking for 96 because it was 11 and a half out of 12. So that's 23 out of 24. 24 out of 25 is close enough, so that's 4%, so that's 96. I was looking for 96%. So, but when I saw that 1.5 million, I said, well, wait a minute. That wasn't in the budget.
No.
We took
but-
that out of
but-
cash. We
but-
put that out of,
Yeah, but
from our cash.
you're actually taking it out of the general fund when you vote to put it in the capital account.
funding it.
That money is in the general fund.
Right.
It's in your bank account, as you say, in the general fund.
so we have to show a disbursement somewhere.
Right.
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 Okay.
But we're not, 1.3 is really 2.8 minus whatever's gonna come out, so.
Right. It's it throws the number off a little bit, and unfortunately,
Well, you
That's
got
the
the
way you
idea
gotta-
right away where I was, I'm
Yeah.
saying, what
Even-
are we at
even-
here?
We got
I don't
a
know.
better surplus than we
Right.
thought.
even that other number where the 1.5 is in
Yes.
year-to-date expenses.
Yeah.
That's 77 isn't really the true number because that 1.5 is in that number also.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. Maybe if the 1.5 is in the 77, that means we got 75.7, right? And so that would mean we have 2.809 over here. And whether or not that's good or bad, I don't know, but it seems like, I don't know.
It's more good than bad, I think, yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's better than being negative.
Roger. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm giving you what I got. I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff. but
Like I
know-
said, if you went through each individual department, there's only a couple of places where you're gonna see money. You're gonna see money in that benefit area, which we
Right.
talked about, and you're gonna see the surplus money at Amity there because of the way we handled that this year.
True, Jeff, but remember, we didn't get the 700,000
No.
in the
but-
revenue side
but-
from Amity
but
that we
we
planned for.
went, the way they did it this year, we shorted our payment in March.
Okay.
So you see, I think
That's
it's
right.
200 and something
Yeah.
Oh,
thousand
yeah, it's
there.
right there. Oh, no, it's right
Yeah,
there.
right.
Absolutely, it's right there. It's not far away either. I remember it's near the end. I think it's the second, yeah, there it is, right? Amity? It's the
Yeah,
356 or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
Okay.
I say we're probably 500,000. There may be another 200,000 there, depending what I have to do in the benefit area.
Okay. Well, we'll find out where we are, but at least on the revenue side, we
There,
were very
if you look at,
fortunate.
the benefit area there, that 863 is half of that 1 million, whatever it was at the end there. And you take that in the Amity money, you're almost to what you're showing there
Yep.
right now.
That's the biggest piece of it. Yep.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing, do we get another one of these for this fiscal year, 22, 23, like
yeah.
in August or something like that?
Probably
You'll-
end of September. probably,
it's-
yeah.
The last one I give you is usually September.
September, okay.
By then, all the revenue is
Well, guys,
usually
thank you for your
in, all
patience,
the
but I did
expenses
go
are
through it and I wanted to ask as many things that came to my
It's good, thank you.
mind. Thank you.
So John, other than everything we covered just now, we're on the right side, you're not overly concerned with the next 2 weeks, anything going crazy? All right, great. Item 12, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Kevin,
All
second
right,
by
good.
Kevin.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous, meeting adjourned at 9:21. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks, Steve.